giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We are streaming live on YouTube, and of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker Steele. Boom! It is Friday, ladies and gentlemen, and we got a special one lined up for y'all with the State of the Unit series picking up. We're talking about the linebackers, and of course, we got none other than Patrik No C Walker of DallasCowboys.com joining us here in a few minutes. So stick around for that. Man, that's not the only thing we got to talk to you guys about, too. It's been a fantastic last, what is this now, like 30 hours? I don't even know. But we got some things, some special things lined up for y'all that began yesterday. And I can't wait to finally, officially drop that for you guys outside of the Cowboys world. But today is about the Cowboys, so we'll get into that. But good morning, Bomb Squad.
Bomb Squad!
How are y'all on this beautiful Friday? And like I said, we have the scientific method, so why even hold that up, man? I mean, let's just bring our guy Patrik No C Walker in right now because he's waiting for us. What's good, bro?
My guy. So, what do you want to talk about?
Hey, that's fitting. That's very fitting that you say that because let's just kind of wait to the end to drop this officially. Yeah. But I love how you brought it in that way.
Hey, not my first rodeo.
No, not your first.
Always with the setup. Always with the setup.
Always. And you're one of the best with the pen. You know what though? I feel dirty right now. Hold on real quick. Bringing in our guy Patrik No C Walker, the scientific man. It don't feel right unless I drop that. I'm so sorry, man.
No, man, you're good. We're in pre-training camp mode. We got to get back into mid-season form. That's
bro.
all.
Facts.
That's all that was.
It's been a few weeks since we had the scientific method. We've been working on some other things behind the scenes. A little rusty, but we back and we're talking about this linebacker group, Pat, which is a completely different group in the sense of philosophy. Not players. There are a few new players, but philosophical. It's so different compared to the Dan Quinn, safety, the linebacker that he brought in Keanu Neal his first year, and now that seems to be long gone under Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the Dan Quinn regime, it's exactly what you said. It was about versatility. It was about guys being able to go between multiple positions, and obviously that's highlighted by Marquise Bell. You mentioned Keanu Neal as well. Keanu Neal was brought in Dan Quinn's first year to try to convert to linebacker. That was not successful. Marquise Bell was a convert to linebacker for the most part. I mean, in spurts, it was successful over the course of the first half of the season, but then his lack of size caught up to him, and then as an overall evaluation, it was a failure as an experiment, which is not a knock to Marquise, it's a knock to the position that he was put in, both literally and figuratively speaking. I expect Marquise to stand out as a safety being moved back to his base position against Wanye Thomas, Malik Hooker, and some of those other guys, Donovan Wilson. But when you're talking about linebackers and you're talking about Mike Zimmer, you're talking about true linebackers. You're talking about guys who came up in their football careers playing linebacker. So that's why you go out and you get a guy like Eric Kendricks. That's why you go out and you get a guy like Willie Harvey Jr. out of the UFL, led the UFL in tackles this past spring, also was named to the All-UFL team. That's why you go and you bring those guys in, because you're Mike Zimmer. You're looking at it as, well, hell, we lost Leighton Vander Esch before I could even get in here and get started. I'm not looking to replace Leighton Vander Esch with Marquise Bell or try to convert Wanye Thomas or anything of that nature. I want definitive and proven talent, which is why you see Eric Kendricks, And then I want a true linebacker in the draft with a premium pick that I can develop and that could make an impact quickly, both on special teams and on defense, Marist Liufau. And as insurance, because they also have DeMarvion Overshown coming back, but allowing him some grace to get his sea legs under him after that torn ACL and having been redshirted. What do? You bring in Willie Harvey. And then you expect a step for Deone Clark going forward. So that's the biggest change right now between the Quinn era and the beginning of the Zimmer era is there's not flexibility that Zimmer is looking for in his linebacker core. He wants true linebackers that can flex between all three positions, but not who used to play safety last year.
And look, no offense to some of these undrafted free agent type guys. I personally, Pat, think there's 6 notable linebackers that will be the most interesting to watch down there at camp and vying for a spot and or role on this team. And again, with all due respect to Brock Mogensen and the Jason and Buddy Johnson of the world, I'm not talking about those guys. Okay, so I want to dive into some of these names you actually talked about individually, and then we can kind of bring it back in as a whole and maybe tie it into some camp battles. But let's start on the back end and talk about Damien Wilson, who's been brought back here to the Cowboys, drafted in, what was it, y'all, 2015, somewhere around there? I think he was the same.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2015. Went on to win a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs, but he didn't play last year, and then the Cowboys signed him in January and re-signed him in April, so here he is. Have you been able to catch up with Wilson or a defensive coach, and have they given you anything on him? And the second question there, is he going to be anything more than a veteran presence during camp?
Well, in observing him in minicamp and, talking to a couple guys, I think that the expectation for Damien Wilson, who, for those that remember, Damien Wilson was part of kind of an impact duo with Anthony Hitchens not so many years ago, and then they both kind of parted ways with the Cowboys with wrong ways. But, yeah, I know, man. We've been doing this a while, right? But when it comes to Damien Wilson, as it stands, he's more so that veteran presence, right? Because you have it in Eric Kendricks, absolutely, in Spade. You don't necessarily have it with Deone Clark quite yet, because Deone Clark, in the grand scheme of things, is still young in the position. You absolutely don't have it with Overshown. You absolutely don't have it with Liufau. And then when you talk about Buddy Johnson, yeah, you don't necessarily have it there either. So you needed that additional NFL experience guy. And Willie Harvey doesn't necessarily have that either. So he's a veteran, but his first stretch with the Cleveland Browns, although it was 3 years, it was his rookie contract, it didn't go well. So he even said himself he has some things to learn. Damien Wilson has been there, done that, won a Super Bowl. I don't look for him to come in and compete for reps against a guy like Eric Kendricks or Deone Clark, or most certainly not Overshown or Liufau. I think that he could come in and maybe carve a spot out for himself against the likes of like a Buddy Johnson. I don't see him competing with Willie Harvey, or even Jason Johnson, Brock Mogensen. So those two rookies, and like you were saying, there are levels to this. But if they show some promise in training camp, you're not going to cut one of those guys to keep a Damien Wilson on board, right? Because that's just not what Damien Wilson is at this point in his career. Yeah. Feels like more of a practice squad keep, right, for insurance purposes and so that he can continue to mentor. But unless Damien Wilson just blows everybody out of the water in training camp, I don't see him as an active roster guy. I see him as a practice squad guy.
You brought up briefly Willie Harvey Jr. We call him the assassin because, every time a president or somebody of note gets assassinated, the assassin has 3 names. Willie Harvey Jr. sounds like an assassin name. So that's what we're going with. I just hope he makes the team so I can stamp that, right? So Willie Harvey Jr., a.k.a. the assassin, gets signed from the UFL. You said he was a standout player there, all UFL. Some would say he was the best linebacker in UFL, but he was, let's just be real, he was a failed NFL player first. However, the Cowboys have dipped their toes in the UFL, Pat, and they've been successful. Granted, it's been special teams. Can they hit again with this kid, Willie Harvey Jr.?
They can, but it's all on Willie Harvey Jr. It really is. When you look at his failed stint with the Cleveland Browns, and we asked Harvey about this once he was signed to the Cowboys. We said, hey, what do you think went wrong in your first stint in the NFL? And he was open, candid, transparent, and I love this because it goes to accountability of a player and of a man. And he basically said, my work ethic wasn't there. I didn't take it seriously enough at the time. He did, basically, for all intents and purposes, he didn't necessarily realize the work that was required. He didn't realize how big the moment was. And now, having had that failed stint and having to claw his way back into the NFL, he now gets it. The light bulb has come on. So now the question is he going to prove the lessons that he's learned from his stint, his first stint in the NFL? Is he going to wake up every morning in training camp going forward, reminding himself of that journey that he had to take to get back to this point? If he does that and can, put that onto film and put that onto the field with big plays and things like he was doing in the UFL, then yes, the Cowboys absolutely can go 3 for 3 as it relates to Willie Harvey being the third UFL signing. And obviously they're looking to dip their toes back in the water, maybe at defensive end. But I think this can be the third consecutive hit for the Cowboys. They've shown that they have a keen eye for talent with the UFL in the spring league. KaVontae Turpin, Brandon Aubrey obviously went crazy in his rookie season. So can Willie Harvey be that for the Cowboys? Yes, maybe not necessarily to the degree that Brandon Aubrey was, different position, different type of situation. Harvey joins a linebackers group that's technically he has at least 3 guys over him right now. And Kendricks, Overshown, Deone Clark, maybe even 4 with Liufau. We'll see how that develops. But there is a role for him on this team. So when he gets his opportunity as early as 10 days from now, 11 days from now, give or take, it's about him taking advantage of it.
I'll tell you what about Willie Harvey Jr., where they do compare the UFL guys. Who was it? You said it. Brandon Aubrey, KaVontae Turpin. When those 2 dudes were signed, the Cowboys, they were signed to a position where the Cowboys needed them. And so they came into an advantageous situation. I think Harvey, even though you said it may be 4 guys in front of him, if this had been Dan Quinn, maybe not, because we know he doesn't really want to carry 5-6 linebackers. But this is Mike Zimmer. So Zim might actually carry 5 guys where maybe 2 or 3 of those dudes play heavy special teams. And I'd imagine that's what Willie Harvey would do. So I think he's got a great shot, given that they signed him out of the UFL, the track record of them signing these guys, but the biggest one here, and Mike Zimmer playing more linebackers than the previous defensive coordinator.
And you bring up something that I alluded to earlier, but a lot of Cowboys fans need to keep this in mind. When it comes to managing the numbers game for the Cowboys, when they make that cut from 90 to 53, when it comes to the linebacker position, special teams is going to loom very large here, especially with the new special teams rules. Okay, I think that's with the new rules, it's a situation where athletic linebackers can probably thrive on special teams. You're going to get a lot of special teams action from third-round pick Marist Liufau. You're going to get a lot of special teams work from Willie Harvey. But see, then that's where the question for Damien Wilson comes in, because Damien Wilson has shown that he can still play special teams. He did some special teams recently in the NFL, took a good bit of snaps there, but he's also getting up there in age. So then the question is, who becomes the better special teams guy, Wilson, Harvey, or Liufau? Liufau is on the active roster, period. So it's Harvey versus Wilson, and I got to give the edge to Harvey there again. I believe Damien Wilson is on this team in 2024. I just don't believe he's on the active roster to start the season. I think he's on the practice squad to allow him an opportunity to continue to mentor, and maybe in an injury insurance type situation, they called him up.
Yeah, Patrik No-C Walker of DallasCowboys.com for those who may just be tuning in and listening. Pat, I feel like the last few DCs that have come in here have had 1 or 2 of their guys in the draft. For instance, Rob Marinelli, I look at DeMarcus Lawrence as his guy, Tristan Hill as his guy. Dan Quinn, you had Micah Parsons and Sam Williams. Those are his guys. Mike Zimmer, I feel like Marist Liufau is his guy. Some people believe they might have reached a little bit here, took a linebacker over running back. And in that case, the defensive coordinator has a big say. And then right off the bat, he calls him brilliant. You don't hear old school coaches call a rookie brilliant too often. So Marist Liufau, I will talk about the next guy, but he is a huge wild card here because I think the play style fits the coach they like, or the coach. And I think, mentally, if he picks this thing up, look out.
Mentally, he's going to pick it up. And I have no doubt whatsoever. This is a guy who at Notre Dame was, heralded for his football IQ, his football acumen, and what works well in his favor as it pertains to performing in a Mike Zimmer defense is Liufau's ability to learn the role and responsibilities of every single defensive player on the field with him, so that he can know better how the machinations work, and so that the machine as a whole can work better in operating. And that's why you hear Mike Zimmer use words like brilliant when it comes to Liufau. It's because he's already demonstrated how he can do that. Plus, he's absorbing the playbook very, very quickly. Looking at him from rookie minicamp, OTAs through mandatory minicamp, he's already being utilized in all three of the positions, Mike, Will, Sam. So they're really showing that he can do it physically as much as he can do it mentally. So not only is he the guy in this draft for, as far as that linebacker for Mike Zimmer, because you could also argue Marshawn Nealon's second-round pick is Zimmer's guy as well. But I think Liufau is going to turn some heads as early as this season, most certainly.
Yeah, for me, watching him, it was a fun study for the most part because he's a downhill thumper. He's explosive, and when you add smarts on top of that, I think that gives you some confidence that he will be able to be an impact player sooner rather than later if he gets the chance. Because there's other players in front of him that'll probably give him a run for his money just because they've been around a little bit longer. But I'm excited to see him. Some of this downfalls, I guess, in college, we miss a lot of tackles in space, but I think that can be cleaned up just basically off of coaching and scheme. I think the scheme is perfect for Marist Liufau. I personally think he is the guy that's going to take over for Eric Kendricks if a Mike Zimmer is still around after this year. He's a prototypical middle linebacker for me. I just wonder if he plays it this year.
Love that you said that, because that's exactly where I was going to go with it. If you look at the construct around Marist Liufau, he's set up for success right now. Okay, he's set up with one of the best defensive coordinators ever. He's set up with a defensive coordinator that highly values the linebacker position and is looking to utilize his skill set in a way that it was utilized at Notre Dame. But then also, Mike Zimmer didn't simply say, okay, well, let's forego addressing the linebacker position at all in free agency because I know I'm going to get my rookie in the first 3 rounds. I know I'm going to do that. Instead, he went and got Eric Kendricks so that Marist Liufau, future tense foreshadowing, Marist Liufau now gets to learn under Eric Kendricks so that he can then supplant Eric Kendricks possibly as early as 2025. So highly instinctual linebacker, extremely high football IQ and acumen, and the physical abilities are there as well. As far as the missed tackles and things like that, if you look at the film on that, it's not for lack of instinct, it's for over-aggression because he's so ready to put the big hit on it. Sometimes he over-pursues or he takes the incorrect angle because he's a heat-seeking missile. But when you combine that with the mentorship of Eric Kendricks, showing the young buck how to drop gears in certain situations, how to improve upon this angle versus this read, when that's who you're learning from, and then overall you have Mike Zimmer kind of pulling the strings to it all, Liufau is going to be, my prediction, my guarantee is that no later than year 2, 2025, he's going to make a big impact. But I believe that at some point this season, he's going to start showing those flashes.
It's going to be so interesting, man, because the other guys in that room will have a say, but that's Zim's guy. That's the difference, right? Where your sponsor's out the building now, The only 2 guys that have a sponsor per se is Eric Kendricks and Marist Liufau. So if he shows anything, he's gonna push dudes. And this next guy we're talking about here, he may push is DeMarvion Overshown, who I think is the biggest wild card to me. I said Liufau could be a wild card, but this guy's the biggest wild card because I think mentally he's gonna be all there, ready to go. But physically is a question mark because of the ACL. But he did talk to you guys. I believe you were in the locker room at the time about getting physically stronger and putting on weight. And I think you told us first here that you've seen and you noticed that he was a lot bigger than previous years. So kind of your take on DeMarvion Overshown this year, who, if he can come back from the ACL, boy.
Yeah, spoke with Demo both in the locker room and just in several off the cuff conversations about his recovery, where he is with it mentally, and his process of putting on weight, like how much was put on and why, and he did tell me that it's upwards of 15 pounds, but it's 15 pounds of muscle. He said he looked at the torn ACL as a blessing because it gave him an opportunity to, while he's recovering and rehabbing his knee, gave him an opportunity to put on strength in the upper body, and he's most certainly done that. He physically looks fantastic, and he's not lost any of his quickness, though, having added 15 pounds of muscle. So, like you said, he's going to be the biggest wild card in this whole thing because it's twofold for DeMarvion Overshown. And that's why I keep using the word grace when it comes to him, because do I believe there's a possibility there's somewhere in the multiverse, there's, like Earth 32, where DeMarvion Overshown is wrecking shop week 1 after a torn ACL? Yeah, sure. On Earth 32. But here on Earth 1, give the kid some grace, because not only is he recovering from a torn ACL, although he looks great physically and mentally, he's saying all the right things. He was red-shirted last year, so this is going to be effectively his rookie season. So you have the rookie learning curve at one of the most difficult positions in all of football, because it's in the heart of the defense, and you have a new defensive coordinator. After your redshirt season, you were basically in study sessions with a different defensive coordinator, so you have to make that change as well. All of this is kind of culminating to my overarching point when it comes to DeMarvion Overshown, which is grace. By the end of this year, he's going to be one of the best linebackers in the league. That much I do believe, and I even put that receipt. I put that receipt on DallasCowboys.com. I believe that's going to be the case, but I don't think you're going to see it consistently at first. He's going to have his stumbles because this is his rookie season, coming off of a torn ACL, and he's also going to have the same mental hurdles that anyone who suffers a major injury has. Jordan Lewis, for example, or whomever the case may be, when you're coming back from a major injury, you have to first start trusting your own body. You have to trust your own knee again, right? So he's up against it. He has the mental fortitude to push through it. He has the physical aptitude to push through it and become what the Cowboys need him to be. And I believe he's going to be a game wrecker by the time the playoffs roll around. But you may or may not see that over the first 4 to 6 weeks. And I just beseech everyone to give this kid an opportunity to find his legs versus doing what Twitter normally does. And week 2, he misses the tackle, and they're like, "Oh, this kid's a bust." Shut up. Just stop talking. Just stop talking. Just leave it to the rest of us and just stop talking.
I tell you what, this kid sounds extremely confident, man. You guys interviewed him, and not only did he talk about his weight, he talked about how somebody in that locker room said, "Yeah, so Deone Clark is going to play blah blah blah." He said, "Oh nah, I'm the Will. Deone Clark is going to Sam." And I thought, that's very confident of him to basically say, "Yeah, this is my spot. This is my job to lose." Yeah. And it wasn't with no smile on his face. It wasn't said jokingly. He was like, "Yeah, this is me." And ACLs are look. I have PTSD, Pat, for the Cowboys. Other teams, maybe these players come back from ACLs and they're fine. Cowboys, it doesn't happen that way. So I'm with you on giving him grace. So if he can recover this year, fantastic. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not holding my breath that he'll be the top of his game this year because of not him, because just the way it happens here in Dallas. But anyway, I thought it was very interesting that he said he has the will position, and he talked about how Mike Zimmer, the difference between him and the difference between Dan Quinn was that he actually teaches the linebackers and tells them or teaches them everything about the defense. And one thing I try to tell a lot of people about Zim and DQ is a defensive lines coach. So he spends a lot of his time with those guys. Zim is going to spend a lot of time with the DBs, but also with his linebackers, or Gunther will, because they tie in together. And I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, and it's 100% true as well. And the thing when it comes to Demo, one last piece on Demo, is the beauty of how Zimmer has constructed the linebackers room is that Demo, he's going to get the lion's share of reps, right? But he's not going to be tasked with being the only impact guy from minute one. Mm-hmm. And that's why you have a guy like Marist Liufau who is showing ability at the will position as well. So that in those situations where, DeMarvion Overshown, because you also got to keep in mind, you don't want to over-rep him, for lack of a better way to put it,
right,
in the first 3 or 4 weeks. You have to work him back in. Okay, so those reps that wherein he's coming off of the field because they're, Britt Brown and the training staff, they're working him back into a full-blown starter capacity. Now you're talking about Liufau, and now you're talking about Willie Harvey Jr. So, you have the construct there as far as depth is concerned to be able to allow Demo that grace. So, and then when it comes to, Mike Zimmer versus DQ, like you said, Mike Zimmer, this is a former defensive backs coach who also focuses heavily on linebackers because in his defense, his linebackers are featured to an insane degree. He needs his linebackers to play at an elite level. So he is very hands-on with them, and that goes to the minutia of what he's teaching them in meetings and film sessions and things like that on the field and practices. So it only bodes well for a young guy like Overshown or Liufau, or even these younger guys like Brock Mogus and Jason Johnson, to have the knowledge and the experience, the proven experience of a Super Bowl winning guy, defensive guy like Mike Zimmer, who's seen it all, done it all, and can come in here and also provide the right culture of attitude, which he also changes up with the Cowboys. It's not to say that DQ didn't hold guys accountable, but Mike Zimmer 100,000% holds guys accountable. And if you're not playing up to his standard, if you're not doing it the way he wants it to be done, you're going to sit on the bench. And it doesn't really matter what your last name is on your jersey.
So I have DeMarvion Overshown as the biggest question. I'm sorry, the wild card, per se, the biggest wild card of the room. Is Deone Clark the biggest question mark, though? Because this kid might be the most athletic linebacker in the room. And the Deone Clark coming out of college, I thought was different than the Deone Clark that played next to an LVE and under two different linebackers coaches. So now you get Paul Gunther in here, Mike Zimmer, a different scheme. He's moving back to more out of the middle of the defense. Could he surprise everyone? Because I don't think anybody has Deone Clark as being the starter right now. People are, DeMarvion Overshown and Marist Liufau, and it's kind of forgetting about Clark. So is he the biggest question mark, and where do you think he falls in line in this group?
I think he's a question mark. I don't know that he's the biggest question mark. I think for me, the biggest question mark would be looking at some of these undrafted rookies like Jason Johnson, Brock Ferguson, as far as which one of these guys is going to potentially make some waves in training camp and preseason to make it difficult for the decision-making process. So I think one of those guys, because they look pretty solid. So I'm curious about that. But Deone is definitely a question mark in the aspect of, first of all, this is a young man who came back early from spinal fusion surgery. It was predicted he'd have a redshirt season. He was on the field October of that very season. He flashed. He had some struggles. He had some struggles. Here comes his year 2. He took some steps, but not not the steps to the point where the Cowboys needed, which is not necessarily a complete knock to him as much as it is the situation the Cowboys put him in, because they did not have the linebacker depth when they, for example, lost Leighton Vander Esch for a certain period of time before losing him ultimately. And that forced Deone Clark to step up, which is completely fine, because when you're a former 4th-round pick, you need to step up and make these plays.
Yeah.
But he's made strides. If you go back and look at his first snap, October, I believe it was against the Bears as a rookie, to now, he's most certainly made strides. Has he made the strides that you would want to see him have made as far as consistency goes? No. And that's the key word for Deone Clark. It's consistency. I've seen the ability time and again. I've seen him make plays and chase down ball carriers and make plays in the run game and make plays and pressuring the quarterback. I've seen him do it. The receipts are on film. But I've also seen instances where he was out of position and things like that. But if you show me you could do something once, then now I know you can do it twice. You just got to do it twice. So for him, it's about consistency. And honestly, I have Deone Clark penciled in as a starter, as one of my 3 starters to begin the season, because I don't know that Marist Liufau is going to be a starter to begin the season, which is completely fine, because that's why you have a guy like Eric Kendricks in here in the first place. I think Liufau gets a ton of burn on special teams, but also gets play on defense. And then as the season goes on, he earns more and more play. And then Mike Zimmer has the decision to figure out, okay, well, how do I manage these 4 guys, Kendricks, Overshown, Clark, and Liufau. So I think that's how it plays out at first. But for anyone that's already drawn a strike through Deone Clark's name as a potential starter for the season, I think you're being very premature there.
I agree. I think Deone Clark is the starter right now. Somebody has to take that from him. Whether it's Liufau, whether it's Demo, whether it's Willie Harvey, somebody has to take it from him for just obvious reasons, as you stated. You got a rookie, and then you also have essentially a rookie in Demo coming off of an ACL injury. I can't see Demo being ready right away. And I personally don't – like, Clark has talent. I personally believe Clark – and this is no disrespect to the LVE, but LVE played a certain way, and I felt like that rubbed off a bit on Deone, and I don't think their styles meshed. But he was right next to LVE, I believe, right in the locker, or he was always around LVE learning from him, and that's what LVE is supposed to do. Well, now he has Eric Kendricks to learn from, who knows this defense like the back of his hand, who has been an all-pro in this league, who is still one of the better linebackers, productive guys in this league, and he's here to be able to teach a Deone Clark. And also, he won't have to play out of position per se. So I could see Deone Clark being better, but can he be consistent? I love that you brought that up, because you can be better in spots, but if you're inconsistent, It doesn't really matter.
And that's what he needs. He needs consistency. And I would also say that I believe that Deone Clark struggled to make the transition in real time on the spot from being the mentee under Leighton Vander Esch to being the mentor in a linebacker's room that was in dire straits as far as bodies are concerned in 2023, because Deone Clark holds LVE in such high regard, and rightfully so, that it was whatever LVE needed him to do, he did. Whatever teachings he had for Deone Clark, he was right there, pen and pad, ready to jot it all down. And he was the student, but the teacher went down with a career-ending injury, and now the student, in real time, with the season on the line, and you're not surrounded by a bunch of talent, you have to instantly step in and be that guy, and I think he struggled to make that transition. But now, having had an entire offseason to do so, and you're starting to see him, I had a great conversation with him in minicamp about DeMarvion Overshown, and, because there's a little bit of similarity there in that DeMarvion Overshown came into the league, and immediately he's fighting to recover from a major injury. Deone Clark, prior to the draft, he had to overcome a major injury. So I talked to him about his mentorship and his mentoring of DeMarvion Overshown in that regard alone. Like, what do you say to Demo as far as the mentality is concerned, as far as – because this is going to be him coming off of a redshirt season. Deone didn't have an entire redshirt season, but half of his rookie season was redshirted. So there's some similarities there. And Deone, he lit up, and he was like, man, I'm talking to him about, how you just need to not think. You need to go out there and trust your body and play. So having those types of conversations let me know that he's really taking hold of the mentor. So now he's becoming the teacher, and I'm interested to see how the teacher version of Deone Clark looks in 2024 versus the student version that was in 2023 and 2022.
And I briefly brought him up here, and Eric Kendricks. To me, Pat, he is probably the sole reason why I believe this room is upgraded. I look, all due respect to LVE, the injuries, he was always, it was unsure. You were always scared he was going to get hurt. Plus, I just feel like Eric Kendricks is a better player in general. And to me, he showed that he still could ball. I mean, I already seen it in the chat earlier during the show, people saying, hey, Eric Kendricks falling off and whatnot. I disagree. Yes, he's not the all-pro in 2019, but he is a fine linebacker. He's a damn good linebacker, and he's playing in a scheme he knows like the back of his hand. And he's probably the one linebacker that I have confidence that even without a top-shelf defensive tackle in front of him, he still will make a greater impact than the previous linebackers over the last number of years. And here's why. I'm not saying this guy is the exact replica of a Sean Lee, but he plays in that way. And Sean Lee never had dominant defensive tackles in front of him. He was one of the smartest players on the football field. Eric Kendricks is one of the smartest players on the football field, and he can still get after it. So I would not write off an Eric Kendricks Cowboys Nation. I think this dude, barring injury, is going to be extremely impactful for you, but it may not be enough. But I'm just talking individually. He's going to be impactful to me, Pat.
Listen, Eric Kendricks is going to be the staple that keeps the pages from flying out of the book at several points in the season. That's the best way to look at Eric Kendricks. If Eric Kendricks gets anywhere near his former All-Pro level, it's lights out. If he gets to a Pro Bowl level, it's lights out. Guess what? If he gets anywhere near a Pro Bowl level, when you talk about the talented youth that are surrounding him, it's still possibly lights out as a collective. I looked at Eric Kendricks and, coming into this season, the Cowboys poach him away from the 49ers, and immediately you got people saying, oh, they're looking at his age, and they're like, oh, he's washed. The Twitter sphere, it does what it does when it comes to things like that. Until I started posting, minicamp updates about Eric Kendricks laying out to get interceptions on Dak Prescott, and now all of a sudden it's, oh, okay, so now you see the vision, right? That's my take when it comes to Eric Kendricks. I was huge on him being signed. And even before he was signed, it's one of those names where I was like, hey, keep an eye on a guy like Eric Kendricks. It just makes too much sense. Cowboys going to get him. Bada boom, bada bang, let's cook. So when you look at the totality of the linebackers core right now, you have question marks on what does the teacher version of Deone Clark look like. You have question marks on how much grace does DeMarvion Overshown need before he starts, wrecking games. Liufau, how long before the rookie gets brought up to speed and starts wrecking games? Willie Harvey Jr., is his work ethic ready for this second stint and on the biggest stage, because the Cowboys have the most eyes of any sports organization in the world? It's Eric Kendricks. He's the steady hand. He's the staple in the middle of all of those pages. That's going to keep everything together. So I agree with you there, 100%.
Yeah, all you got to do, and I'm running the tape now just in case for those who haven't seen it, just go back and watch the tape. Yes, the Chargers defense was not great, but Eric Kendricks, when it came to the run game, he helped the Chargers run defense actually rank in the top half of the league, I believe, in yards per carry. And I just have one question. Who were the Chargers defensive tackles? Don't worry, I'll wait. So while I still believe the Cowboys need to address that position, no doubt about it, I think that man right there, Eric Kendricks, he's the one guy I have confidence that will be able to navigate around the deficiencies in front of him. I can't say that for the others because they're very young and green, but that dude right there is, like you say, he's going to be the staple that keeps the pages from flying off the hinges. But I'm hoping they address what's in front of them so that everyone can be elevated in that room, not just an Eric Kendricks based off of his own ability. So we're still holding out hope on defensive tackle. Y'all got any more of them defensive tackles in the UFL, Pat? Y'all got any more?
As a matter of fact, we do. And one's name is Linval Joseph. So by all means, please reach out to a guy like Linval Joseph. Lost out on Calais Campbell, unfortunately.
That pissed me off.
Yeah, oy vey. But Linval Joseph is another mercenary that's still out there. He has pre-existing relationship with Mike Zimmer as well. And for those that were asking me, because they're saying, well, why isn't Joseph signed yet? Joseph is one of those guys where doesn't necessarily want to have to, he's at the age in point of his career where he's not interested in your mini camp or your OTA or your voluntary program, right? He's interested in hitting the ground running at some point in somebody's training camp and making sure that it's the right fit for him, that it's going to give him a chance to contend, and that the money is there. I don't think that he's going to be an expensive get at all. I think more so for Linval Joseph, it's just him surveying the landscape of all 32 teams before he makes a decision. I believe there is interest for Linval Joseph from multiple teams, but I really think he's just sitting back waiting for the right spot. But I also believe that being said, Mike Zimmer has his ear. So we'll see how it plays out. I would just say don't be surprised if at some point over the next several weeks you really start to see some traction there if he's not wooed away by, a $5 million deal from somebody.
Yeah, the Cowboys wouldn't be.
Because you're not going to get that here.
No, $5.
You're not going to get that here.
We got Linval.
You're not going to get that here.
We got $5 in a lifetime supply of Whataburger. What's up? Come through.
You said that.
Hey man, we definitely need a new defensive tackle. Speaking of new, ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you real quick about our new venture here and new wrestling has finally launched. I've been holding this in for I don't know how long, y'all. It's been months in the working. It's been weeks of planning to release, to drop. And we blitzed y'all yesterday, and it's finally here. And New Wrestling. Pat, I'm so excited to get this thing popping with you and our guys Josh and KD. This thing is going to be crazy.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen of planet Earth, and New Wrestling has not only arrived, but it is an extinction level event. The four horsemen of A&W are here. It's myself. It's Steel, aka Steel Cage.
Yep.
Josh Rodriguez, aka the Josh. You got KD. You got myself, No C, aka the Kayfabe. We are here. We are doing it big with podcasts. We're doing it big with articles. We're doing it big with everything that you need when it comes to covering professional wrestling. WWE, AEW, TNA, NWA, New Japan, Lucha Libre, whatever you need, we got you. All you have to do is subscribe on YouTube at And New Wrestling. Follow on Twitter at And New Wrestling. TikTok at And New Wrestling. You send us a theme. Facebook at And New Wrestling. And on IG at And New Wrestling Pod. Make sure you add the POD on IG. That's the only one that's different. We launched the teaser yesterday on Thursday, 7/11, because it was a good day, right? And on 7/12, we are releasing the first full episode of our A&W podcast. And New Wrestling has arrived. I got my three guys with me, and we are absolutely about to wreck shit. Come join the family. Come join the family.
Hey, Pat, you want to let them know, because I'm about to drop the link here in the chat about the episode 1, because we already have a teaser out, and we have episode 1 coming up today, I believe, dropping today.
Yeah, we got to drop in today. We got to drop in shortly after we wrap this episode because, hey, we are Renaissance man and we operate at a high level on multiple things. So we finished talking elite level Cowboy stuff and then we hop right into pro wrestling. So today's episode is going to drop on YouTube and Twitter. You're going to see clips on IG, TikTok, Facebook. But again, subscribe on YouTube. We're talking about the fallout from Money in the Bank. We're talking about the return of Mommy. Mommy is trying to get back on top. The Brutality Tour has started for Rhea Ripley. What does that mean for Judgment Day? We talk about the Bloodline. We talk about Piffy Time. We talk about Chelsea Green. We talk about everything that is needed to be talked about in the episode that's going to drop today. So please get on the train while it's pulling out of the station so that you can make sure that you're up on all the greatness from A&W and the Four Horsemen.
We dropped roughly 24 hours ago, maybe a little less, not sure. And we're only 20 away from 100 subscribers on YouTube. So if we can get that 100 subscribers by the end of today, that will be a fantastic milestone to hit. Episode 1 dropping, and then next Tuesday we'll have episode 2, and this thing will start taking off, man. I'm so excited for this. One of my favorite ventures I've ever done, man, and couldn't be happier to do it with a great group of people. And I just know this thing's about to go crazy.
Crazy. And just so y'all know, folks, this is bigger than just the podcast. This is a whole ass movement. We got the merch coming. We're going to have free merch giveaways here shortly once we start hitting these milestones. So like Steel mentioned, we hit 100 subscribers. Guess what? Free merch is coming. We're approaching 300 followers in less than 30 hours or so on Twitter. Guess what? Free merch is coming. Then we're going to open up the free merch store so you can dive in and purchase whenever you want. So again, this is a movement. This is an A&W family. And bottom line is, if you know Steel and you know me and you know KD and you're going to get to know Josh, one thing we do not do is mess around. When we put our mind to it, it's out of here. And we just ask that you come join us for the ride because it's going to be fun. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be entertaining. And we're taking pro wrestling coverage to a whole new level. And
Hey, I just dropped. Can y'all see this? Okay, y'all can see this. I just dropped your wrestling belt picture with the and new hat and shirt. Look at this, y'all. Like, come on, man. I was jealous, low key.
Come on, man.
Not low key, high key. I hit you up. Was like, dog, I need that belt. I'm gonna have to wrestle you for it. I'm gonna have to Rey Mysterio your ass for that belt.
Listen, man. I told you, fatal four way for the belt. Whenever y'all three ready, we can do this.
But the shirt and the hat, oh man, this is crazy. I'm so excited, bro, and just thank you for hitting me up.
We don't half-ass, man. This is what we do. It's all official, 100%. So, folks, if you're looking at that image that's still put in front of you, that's exactly a good example of what the merch is going to look like. And we're going to have shirts, hats, stickers, tumblers. It's going to be a whole gamut for the A&W family. And like we said, man, just come along for the ride. You're gonna regret it if you don't.
Indeed, bro. Hey, that is Patrik No C Walker, DallasCowboys.com for this week's scientific method. Hey, I know you got some more work to do, as do I. So appreciate you coming through, brother. I'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Fun as always, man. Yes, sir. In a few minutes.
In a few minutes.
And
new, baby. My God, Patrik No C Walker, y'all. Hey, man, I'm hyped. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I'm so excited for this. This is our thing. Ownership is a big deal. And it is a passion of mine. A lot of people, I get it. A lot of y'all not into that, and that's fine. But there's a good bit of y'all who are, and we've been asking for, man, since I've started this podcast. You guys have always seen. Can you see it over here? Let me see. You can't see it yet. You guys have always seen my wrestling belt over here. I wear the shirts, the hoodies. It's a big deal for me, and I always want to do this, but I wanted to do it right. And boy, Pat, KD, Josh, those are the right people to do this with. And it's about to go up, man. It's about to go up. So I did want to read this super real quick. We got one that snuck up in here by Jay Versick. Appreciate you, Jay. He dropped 2 and said,
Super chat.
Zim versus Kyle Shanahan week 8 will be interesting. I want to do like a real full breakdown on this, man, because the film that I've seen some really good film against Zimmer versus that tree-ish. And McVay comes from that tree, right? But we know Dan Quinn struggled a bit with that tree. Now, McVay, he actually played well against Shanahan, not so much over the years. Zim has notoriously been successful against it. So, yeah, that's going to be a big one. I just hope that we have the personnel to match, that's all. And I'm talking about defensive tackles. All right, so appreciate that, Miss Sadiqa, and everyone who has went over there to subscribe. We won't be doing any live streams just quite yet. We'll be dropping the videos and the clips and whatnot, the podcast, and then eventually we'll be warming up to doing some live streams, PLEs, maybe some Monday night SmackDowns, things like that. But it's only up from here, man. I'm excited for it, and I appreciate you guys for really being a part of this ride to get to where we're at. That's the wrestling side of it. Continue, though, to be a part of this ride, Cowboys ride, A to Z Dallas in the morning. We'll be picking things up as camp gets closer. We are, 2 weeks away. Next week, we will have a guest each day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, unless something changes. But we'll have a guest on Monday already set up, Wednesday already set up, and then we'll be right back here with Pat on Friday. So that's how we will be preparing for camp. And we're talking all things camp and all things Cowboys, whether it be contract related or not. The first one is the first guest near and dear to my heart. The second guest is my guy. And then we'll have Pat here on Friday. So next week, jam-packed week for y'all. The following week is the last week before training camp. So we'll try to have guests lined up as well. And then it's here, man. We're back full 5 days a week, barring anything crazy, with covering camp each day, right? There'll be practices each day. Unfortunately, I will not be at camp this year. I won't be at Oxnard. I'll be at Dallas. I'll be able to go down to Frisco. That's not a problem. But I won't be in Oxnard, obviously, daddy duties, right? So I'll keep you guys up to speed when they come here, and then we will be talking to people that are there, whether it be creators or people in the media, that'll keep us up to speed. And we'll be covering the videos and tweets and everything that comes out. You know how we do during camp. We go hard during camp. All right. And the next thing you know, man, preseason game will be here and we ready to go, baby. We are ready to go. Shouts out to my guy, Matthew Lennox, who one of the biggest wrestling fans I know. I always think I'm the biggest wrestling fan I know till I meet other wrestling fans. Did we meet up before WrestleMania? Yeah, we met up before WrestleMania. I got a picture with the belt and everything. Got my favorite belt of all time, the big eagle, not the wing eagle, not the small one, although I love that one. The big eagle belt. And he's one of the biggest wrestling fans. I think you go to every damn WrestleMania, man. Jealous. But appreciate you for the $10 donation. He said, congrats to y'all on And New Wrestling. Got to hop on there sometime. 100%. 100%. All right. With that said, let me press this button, man.
Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn button.
Sheesh. Appreciate y'all. If you missed the scientific method, run that thing back. We talked about the linebackers today. Next week, we'll be picking up all things Cowboys training camp. All right? Camp battles, all types of stuff. Yeah, WrestleMania 38, Matt. We out here. Love y'all.